What's up with it? What's up with it, Tom? Welcome to the Al Jaheez podcast, aka the Book of Al Jaheez. It's your boy Gullah Jabiri in the building, man. It's been a minute. I've been off about 2 weeks. Had to get some studying in because I really want to touch on this subject about the Dar Tichitt, the Tichitt culture. It's named after the area of Dar Tichitt. And it's various different areas in this region. I just really want to touch on this because, I just want to give a clean slate and have a fresh look on different parts of Africa, not just Egypt. We've been talking about Egypt for a long time. And I just want to, teach people the aspect and kind of segue into West African history for a change. So I'm gonna get into the Tichitt culture tonight, which is kind of like the starting of the state of the origins of the statehood of West Africa, and kind of the statehood structure of West Africa culture, especially Niger Congo population, or Niger Congo speakers in this area. And it wasn't even just Niger Congo was definitely dominant. But you had other cultures there too. You had a few Nilotic areas like the Songhai. Some of the ancestors of the Songhai people, influencing some of the Proto-Mindi people, because the Tichitt culture would have been the ancestors of the Proto-Mindi population, the founders of the big empires of West Africa, like you might know it as Ghana, which is actually Ouagadougou. The actual name of the empire is Ouagadougou. Ghana is the actual name of the Soninke ruler. But the Soninke, the particular group, the Soninke is like, it's a subgroup of the Mende people. And they were, this particular subgroup of Mende, they were the founders of what we would know as most people know as Ghana Empire, which is really called Ouagadougou. And then you have Mali, and of course you have Songhai. Songhai are really Nilo-Saharians, but they still, by them being in West Africa, they have heavy influence by Mende population, by Mende cultures. Even the second dynasty of the Songhai Empire that was ran by Askia Muhammad, himself, he was from the military unit of the Songhai Empire. Him himself was of Soninke, which is Mende culture. He wasn't even Songhai. So it's kind of like, even Songhai itself, it was put in position by the Malayan Empire. But then, later on, it kind of like, it seemed like when Askia Muhammad took back over, it's kind of like they took it over again. I got a book. I got a code book called The African Dominion by Michael Gomez, and it really goes to do a deep dive in on medieval history of West Africa. A lot of the more recent, recent claims, more the up to date, history and what the scholars are saying now today about the West African, especially medieval West African history. Let me see who in the chat. Please like and subscribe to the channel, please. Show some love, fam. Appreciate y'all rocking with me tonight. Appreciate y'all rocking with me tonight. Okay, I got Set Imhotep in the building. Right on. What's up with it, bro? Good, you here. One of the artists in the building. I got Brother Smalls. What's good with it, Smalls? You said you was rocking with me tonight. What's good with it? Mr. Metro was popping. You always rock with me every Saturday. And I got my boy Dar Tichitt. Salute. What's up with it? They did the Moors destroy some. Yep, the Moors destroyed some guy. They definitely did. That was like on the cuff of when guns first started being involved in warfare and African warfare. And Sun God was defeated by the gun. But Sun God was cold. Don't get it twisted. Sun God wasn't no joke. They had some of the most skilled lancers. Like West Africa, like we known for lancing. Like, how like you ever look at medieval fighting, like the knights when they fight on the horses and they got the big long lance or the spear, and they going at each other driving. West Africa, we was dope at that. We was the best at it. Even our lances was actually poisoned. I know the ancient Hassa, they had dope lancers, the Mosey, definitely Songhai, and also like the central, the North Central African countries, which is they still have kind of linkage to West Africa too, states, which is was more so around Chad, which is like the Kanem and the Bornu Empire, but it's still like similar and culturally similar to West African history. Because even Mali and all that like that influence stretched all the way to that area. Keisha Doon, what's up with it, fam? What's up with it? I'm gonna get it in. Just wanna do let's share my screen with you real quick, fam. And that song I was playing in the intro, that was Ali Farka. Ali Farka Touré. He's a famous blues musician from Mali. He's actually he sings in Songhai. He sings in Songhai and he speaks Mende, and he also speaks Amazigh too. It's all in that area, that northern West African, cultural, what they call it, cultural entanglement. Where you got various different cultures, influences in that region. And this music is very, very good, very dope. Even though it's from Mali, it sounds like Mississippi blues. And even if you look up the history of blues, the origins of the music that we created here, is actually the elements of the blues actually come from Mali. Us playing the kora, that's like in West Africa. And when we was in West Africa, our ancestors, they're even up to today, the kora, that's like the West African guitar. Okay, let me show my screen real quick with y'all so I can really understand what Dar Tichitt is. A lot of people don't even know what Dar Tichitt is. In the group, in the Discord, in the back, I told Sister Juju, I told her I was doing a show on Dar Tichitt, And she didn't even know, she never even heard of Dar Tichitt. So that's a good thing. I did this show tonight, you know what I'm saying, do a real teaching lesson, you know what I'm saying, a lesson on this particular culture. Yeah, the kora became the banjo. Kora, and the kora is a beautiful instrument. It sounds beautiful. I used to play the kora to my daughters. I used to play some music, some Malian music to my daughters so they can go to sleep. Soothing music. Share my screen real quick. Let me get this position real quick, y'all. Position. You know, I'm gonna start with wiki, and then we're gonna end up in the journals. I got a couple of journals too, you know what I'm saying, to talk about the culture. Because a lot of people, there's some people out here, man. There's some pseudos out here that don't think that the Dar Tichitt culture were ancestor of modern day Mende people. I don't know who they think these people were. I mean, and two, don't get me wrong, too. You didn't just have Mende there; you had other cultures there too. You even had a culture before the Proto Mende even came to that region, which were the West African hunter-gatherers. And the West African hunter-gatherers, I'm gonna do a show on them too. I'm gonna do a whole show on West African hunter-gatherers itself. I'm gonna show a little bit on here, but I'm gonna dedicate a whole show on the West African hunter-gatherers, which is like one of the ghost populations that was in West Africa. And they were some of the people that they were some of the first first late Stone Age cultures that came into West Africa, but they came through a southern route through Shumlaka. And these West African hunter-gatherers, they were actually like relatives or related to the what we call the central African hunter-gatherers, which are generically called the Pygmy, or we also call them respectfully call them the Batwa. Even though they didn't call themselves the Batwa originally, because the term Batwa is a Bantu term. They don't have a language like their language. They have a language that like they speak. They speak Bantu languages. They speak Central Sudanic languages. They speak Ubangian languages. But the language that they originally spoke, nobody knows what language they originally spoke. We only have like certain words or certain things that we know that's not Niger Congo, that's in their speech, that most likely come from their original language. But a lot of their language is dead and it's lost, and that also happened to the Western hunter gatherers, the West African hunter gatherers. Okay, let me get into it. Got it right here. We're gonna get into the Dar Tichitt culture, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about the Dar Tichitt region as well. The Dar Tichitt region, but this is the Tichitt culture. Well, I heard it say the Tichitt culture, or Tichitt, or the Tichitt tradition, was created by Proto Mende peoples. And the Mande, people that don't know, or because the Mande branch has various different sub branches of Mande culture as well. You got the Soninke, you got the Malinke, you got the Bozos, you have it's various, so many, the Susu. I'm gonna go in on a little bit about the Mende people too after I get into this. So, click that too soon, okay? All right, and it say in 4000 BCE, the start of sophisticated social structure trade of cattle as valued assets developed among herders among the pastoral period of the Sahara. In the pastoral period, is based on the pastoral, which is pastoral based on the rock art. That's how we know about the pastoral period. And it is, rock art is, what it say? Pastoral period, and it's a pastoral rock art is the most common form of Central Saharan rock art, created and painted in engraved styles depicting pastoralists and bow-wielding hunters, scenes of animal husbandry among with various animals spanning from 6300 BCE to 700 BCE. That's the pastoral period. That's when people, people in the Sahara, not even just the ancestors of the Niger Congo people. You had what they call what Christopher Ehret himself he called Sahelian populations, which is the Nilo-Saharan populations of the Spring Sahara region. You had, of course, you had the Capsian culture, which is the ancestors of the Berbers, or Amazigh, Chadic populations, which form these various different cultures and these very different forms of an approach to pastoralism. Even before full domesticated cattle came in the Heliocene period, you had the ancestors of the Niger Congo people, what they call the Onanian people, and also some early Nilo-Saharan populations. They actually tamed, they tamed and managed wild, what they call Barbary sheep and wild oryxes, which is wild cattle, non-domesticated cattle. But they kind of, this is what Christopher Ehret called agricultural or pastoral beginnings. Before full-time, agricultural and pastoralism was really formed. You had an early approach to it, and the early beginnings to it wasn't what is still kind of, people still kind of hunter-gathererish. They still was hunter-gatherers. They still, was somewhat pastoral. That's why they still call these people pastoral. And the Niger Congo, the proto Niger Congo or the Niger Kadophian people who originally came in the early, before the Heliocene, they were somewhere around like west of the Southern Nile. Not nowhere about around Egypt or nothing, but like southern, like in the Sudan area, Western Sudan. The Western, that's what they call West Africa, the Western Sudan. Even today, you still got Kadophian or Niger Congo speakers today in that Kadophian area. And they are some people say they're some of the remnants of when Niger Congo, so they some of the ones who stayed more to the east as Niger Congo populations migrated to the Green Sahara 12,000 years ago, and migrated into West and Central Africa around the they come from somewhere around the Nile Basin. Let me read the chat real quick. See, we're glad we shipped it out. I don't know Pakistan, Forest, Banjo. I don't know what they talking about. I'm gonna just get into the subject. But yeah though. But yeah, like some people in the community, some pseudos in the community, like your boy Comgyverse, he say some people, I don't know who claimed some type of Saharian theory origin, but most scholars I know even still say that the ancestors of Niger Congo populations come from somewhere around the Nile Basin. But this is way before Egypt or anything like Kemet was here or there. This is very ancient, in like 12,000 to 20,000 years ago. They migrated from the southern, the southern Nile, somewhere around probably around the Wadi Hawar area. Okay, they say in 4000 BC, the start of sophisticated social structure, trade of cattle as value assets developed among herders amid the pastoral period of the Sahara. Saharan pastoral culture, fields of which is fields of tumuli, lustrous stone rings, and axes, was intricate. By 1800 BCE, Saharan pastoral culture expanded throughout the Saharan and Sahelian regions. In the Sahel, if people don't know what the Sahel is, the Sahel is like it's like a strip of grassland, or a strip of more grassy area that goes from West Africa to East Africa, and it's right on the margin of right immediately south of the Sahara, where you find a lot of cattle pastoral people today, like the Fulani and other groups. Even the main empires that we know that I mentioned. A lot of those kingdoms, they call them Sahelian kingdoms, because they formed in that area. They were kind of like the middlemen between more tropical Africa and North Africa. So they was in the cuff between that. That's why they were so wealthy. That's why those kingdoms became so wealthy and gold and became so powerful. Especially the Soninke. They the first ones who actually started the Ghana Empire, or the Ouagadougou Empire. They became wealthy, especially the subgroup Soninke, what they call the Wangara Soninke group, who were warrior traders. They're warrior traders and merchants, because of their trade, and they knew how to fight real good to protect themselves from marauders or stick people. Had a lot of Amazigh and different Bagavan people that try to steal your goods. A lot of them was actually trading with Carthage. They call it the silent trade. If you look that up, it's called the silent trade, or the early trans-Saharan trade. And them people, that's how they became so wealthy and powerful. Formed Ghana later on. And they say by 1800 BCE, the Saharan pastoral culture expanded throughout the Saharan and Sahelian regions. The initial stages of a sophisticated social structure among Saharan herders served as the sigu for the development of the sophisticated hierarchies found in African settlements, such as Dar Tichitt. I'm gonna get into Dar Tichitt a little later too. Dar Tichitt got that's a whole subject in itself. And they say it's a Neolithic archaeological site located in the southwestern region of Saharan Desert in Mauritania. A lot of Mende people, a lot of the Niger Congo people, they were a little bit further north than they were now when the Sahara was green. A lot of the groups, migrated further south a little bit more, reach, what I'm saying, more towards like the end of the Heliocene period. And that kind of like, even that migration, the Niger Congo people, that's like, the what they call the Bantu migrations is a branch, is a sub branch part of this, migration or whatever. When the Sahara became more desertous and more arid and dry, a lot of these populations started migrating further south. Not even just the Niger Congo people, some Nilo-Saharians, some people in different, people went different directions. But for us in West Africa, it was mostly the Niger Congo populations. You might have had a few North African stragglers too, who came to the mix. looking for more suitable lands to live off of. Because you do have traces of Iberian Marusian, or what they call Metroid people that that were you can find in West African genomes today. Some of these populations, these Iberian Marusians, and vice versa, because the Iberian Marusians, they got like 36%, West African, West African like DNA. That they found like 15,000 years ago. And that's just from, when the Sahara started to dry out, people went different directions. Yeah, Mauritania is a mixed country, most definitely. But you had more like, the Mende populations. They were more like in the south, the southeast. That's what Dar Tichitt is. Dar Tichitt is more during the southeast. It's a Dar Tichitt is a Neolithic archaeological site located southwest. I said southeast, western region of the Sahara Desert in Mauritania. It is one of the several settlements locations along the sandstone cliffs in the area. Dar Tichitt, when we talk about the Tichitt culture, it ain't just Dar Tichitt. Dar Tichitt was just the first site that they found. But you got other regions in that whole region too. They're like cliffs and plateaus. You find these, building stone structures. Some of them even built into the cliffs. But you got Dar Tichitt, you got Dar Walata. Some people even call it Tichitt Walata culture sometimes. You got Dar Nima, you got Dar Tichitt, and they are the sites which compose the Tichitt culture. Collectively. They say after migrating from Central Sahara, Proto-Mende peoples established their civilization in the Tichitt region of west of the Western Sahara. The Tichitt tradition of Eastern Mauritania dates from 2200 BCE to 200 BCE. Some people like some scholars like Augustine Ho, which is the Cameroonian archaeologist. Sometimes he go in between 2200 BCE, or sometimes he even say some of it might start at 4000 BCE. Because a lot of the earlier times when these Niger Congo population, or these proto-Niger Congo people, proto-Mende people was coming in this area, they were coming seasonally, at first, mixing with, the West African hunter-gatherers that was already in that region. And they mixed their hunting skills, with the Central Saharan people's hunter skills, and also the Central Saharans brought in that pastoralist or that agro-pastoralist element, and even metallurgy to the region as well. They say the Tichitt culture at Dar Nima, Dar Tichitt, Dar Tichitt, and Dar Walata included 4-tiered hierarchical social structures forming of cereals, metallurgy, numerous funerary tombs, and rock art tradition. You had, and what's dope was each area had a specialized area where they did special things. You kind of could see that in West Africa today. How they have a certain caste system, how a certain group or certain caste or class base might be skilled at a particular at a particular task or a particular craft or art form. Like you got your metallurgers, you got your shoemakers, you got your the people that do the cloths and the fabrics. It's a whole art and a whole guild behind that, and people and they take pride in it, that type of stuff in West Africa. And they say at Tichitt and Dar Walata, pearl millet may have also been independently domesticated amid the Neolithic. and that's and pearl millet is a staple, man. That pearl millet is a staple amongst Mende population. Pearl millet, African rice, different types of wheat and grasses. These are also called Sudanic, West Sudanic crops. A lot of these crops too, like the pearl millet, kind of like when Niger Congo people started to travel more in tropical regions, like the Bantu, or even like people like they became the Yoruba later on, and they migrated more deeper into southern regions, or more to the tropical coast, or they lived like more on the fringes of the forests or whatever. They brought certain crops from that northern region. They didn't bring a lot of the wheats and millet, stuff like that, like the pearl millet. They didn't track, because you can't really grow pearl millet in those regions. But they did bring like crops like black eyed peas, which are called cow peas, things of that nature. And they develop other things as well on their way, like cultivating the yams and things like that. And they say pearl millet may have also been independently domesticated amid the Neolithic. The settlements of Dar Tichitt consist of multiple stone wall compounds containing houses and granaries, storage facilities, sometimes with street layouts. Additionally, around some settlements, larger stone common circumvallation walls were built, suggesting the special purpose groups coordinated as the result of decision enforced for the benefit of community as a whole. The urban Tichitt tradition may have been the earliest large-scale complexity organized society in West Africa, and an early civilization of the Sahara, which may have served as the sigu for state formation in West Africa. Consequently, state-based urbanism in Middle Niger and Ghana, in the Ghana Empire, developed between 450 CE and 700 CE. And don't get it confused. Don't get Ghana Empire confused with modern day Ghana, because it's two different things. I mean, the people of Ghana today, like the Khan population, now they were a part of the empire. But that's not, they weren't like the central rulers of the kingdom. They named it after the Ghana Empire, but they actually were like the Ashanti, not the Ashanti, but because the Ashanti wasn't around yet, but the ancestors, they'd be the ancestors of the Ashanti. They would have been the people that would have been given the gold, one of the gold sources for Mali and Ghana and those regions, Ouagadougou and them regions more further north. They were more like the middlemen, Ouagadougou and Mali and Senegal. They were more like the middlemen for more deeper tropical Africa, trading certain goods with West Africa, and then not West Africa, North Africa, and North Africa bringing their goods down, like salt and horses and things of that nature, to more tropical regions. Okay, and they say the Dars, climate and geography. The Dars, or cliffs or lake or cliffs, are located in southeastern and central southern regions of Mauritania. The cliff, so some of them are, I was right, some of them are in the southeastern region. Well, because it kind of stretches. See the map right here. This is the Tichitt culture. Some of it in the west, some of it falls in the east, like Dar. Was good with it. Was good with it, Gozy.
What's up, bro? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm in here. Yeah, I hear you, bro.
Yeah, where you at so far in your bill?
Right now, I'm just telling, just kind of, I'm on the map trying to show like the Tichitt region, what the Tichitt culture is, like the different regions, because you know the Tichitt culture ain't just Dar Tichitt, it's Tichitt, Taggart, Dar Taggart, Dar Nima, Dar Walata, and these different regions around Dar Tichitt, which is like southern Mauritania. I'm just kind of breaking down, like breaking down, who the people are, them being the first people to bring statehood to West Africa.
Oh yeah, I'm listening in, bro. Do your thing. I'm just gonna listen in until you ready for me to talk. But go ahead. I don't want to cut your bill, God. Get it in.
All right, bro.
Yeah.
And I was getting to the climate and geography. They said the Dars or cliffs are located in southeastern and central southern regions of Mauritania. The cliffs span 800 kilometers. The Dars, Dar Tichitt, Dar Walata, Dar Taggart, or Mauritania are located north of the Senegal River. The Dars of Mauritania are located between Hard Depression and Taggart Plateau. The Dar Nima and Dar Tichitt are major uh, excrements in Mauritania. You see excrements that like slope steeps. And they say and also too, some parts of the Dar region is kind of like some parts of it is Dogon, like Dogon country too. When you get a little farther, because they live in like something similar to these type of excrement areas. This type of ecosystem or climate. And they say from east to west, Dar Nima and Dar Walata, Dar Tichitt and Dar Taggart form a semicircular shape around the Had Akkad Depression, which prior to 4000 BCE was an area with lakes in considerable size, and around 1000 BCE was an area that had become increasingly dry during the emergence of Tichitt tradition. It was an oasis area. I'm gonna get into let me see. There's some stone axe, stone tools. And these people would have been these would have been the proto, these would have been people would have been predominantly proto-Mindi people. They would have had like, they would have had somewhat West Sahelian ancestry as well. Because the Mende or the proto-Mende and the Songhai people, they've been neighbors and living along with each other for a long time.
Yeah. I want to add on, bro. They definitely was a proto Mindi people, and you got people like, and I'm gonna say his name, Comedy Verse, who's trying to act like the proto Mindi people came from somewhere else or Egypt or some shit, and they don't. And I just want to say that, but they definitely were proto Mindi people, the predecessors of the Mandinka and all those people that come out of that people. So yes, they definitely were a pro Mindi people, and they don't come from Egypt. But people are trying to make it seem like they came from Egypt, where they got a connection with ancient Egypt.
No, they don't. They don't. They don't at all. That's a more recent rendition where they try to claim that they come from Egypt. Even if you look at, let me go. They definitely trying to say the Sanike come from Egypt. See, watch this. Sanike. Glad you said that. I'm gonna show you this, and I'm gonna get back on touch. Shout out to the my wifey in the chat, my beautiful queen in the chat, Shabri.
Peace to the queen. Peace to the queen. And the beautiful family. Peace.
See, right here. Yeah, right here. It said, according to Soninke oral tradition, the ancestor of Soninke was Dinga, sometimes said to have come from the Middle East, though such a story is unlikely, as the Middle Eastern tag came about subsequent into the mandate converting to Islam. His sons included Dayami Sisi, the founder of Wagadu Kingdom, with its capital of Kimbu. And these would have been the descendants, these would have been descendants of the Dar Tichitt, the people of Dar Tichitt. And they say another Soninke tradition indicate that they migrated from Aswan, Egypt. However, theories of foreign origin are almost entirely doubted, discharged by scholars, and are believed to result from later Euro-Asiatic cultural influences, namely Arab and French. Archaeological evidence. That's why it kind of makes sense. That kind of makes sense why Sheikh Anti Joke was on. What he on? They said the French kind of put that shit at in the education. They say archaeological evidence supports an evolution of Ghana Empire and other Mende states from roots in the preceding local ancestral Soninke culture, such as that of Dar Tichitt, rather than the North Africa or Middle East. That beat them up right there, bro. Can't get past the wiki.
Oh no, they can't get past the wiki with the citations there. Absolutely. Of course it beat them up. It have nothing to do with the Middle East at all.
No, not at all. I think I lost. Lost the page. Go back real quick. Oh, there you go. Okay. I got some journals too, man, that goes in from you ever heard of Augustine Hall?
What's his name, bro?
Augustine Hall.
No. What did he make? What did he write?
He's from Cameroon. He's an archaeologist. He
Oh,
does
I
a
need
he does a lot of the work on Dar Tichitt culture, the history of metallurgy in West Africa.
I gotta check that out.
You probably did come across him, but didn't trip off him. But he's actually, like, we read on West African history, he sourced a lot, like along with Kevin McDonald, McIntosh, and archaeologists like that. That's what in a boy Kamji verse, he be trying to say McDonald be saying some other stuff, but when I most of the sources I got, you don't say nothing that he be saying. Okay. Let me get really into the culture. They say at Dar Tichitt and Walada, the people of the Tichitt tradition were considerably mobile each season. That's what I was talking about earlier, how when they first started out, there was more, they came in the area seasonally. And they gradually would start mixing with them West African hunter gatherers. The West African hunter gatherers that was in their region that would have been related to like the pygmies or the Batwa people. And say they practice animal husbandry, sheep, goat, and cattle, fish, and by at least 3600 BP, domesticated and formed pearl millet. However, farming of crops and millet may have been a feature of the Tichitt cultural tradition as early as the third millennium BCE in Dar Tichitt. The origin of pearl millet at Dar Tichitt may date to 3500 BCE. At Dar Tichitt, domestication of pyramidal imprints in pottery have been dated between 1900 BCE and 1500 BCE, and that's what they showed her at the top, the print, the pyramid in the pottery, the little lines. That's a staple. Pyramid is a staple in Mende culture.
Yes, sir.
Pyramid in rice.
Yes, sir. Hey, let me ask you a question. That sub-Saharan component that you find amongst them, the Mende and all that, somewhere down the line it bridges with the Serer, and it also bridges with the people who make up the stronger African side within the Fulani population. Correct?
Yeah, yeah, because the proto Mende would the proto Mende sister branch would have been Atlantic Congo, and Atlantic Congo is kind of like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Because Mende
Yeah.
is like Mende is real basal, is a basal branch, and it's even though it got newer branches, the branch itself has come from a basal basal branch.
Yeah.
And it like split like the proto
Yeah.
language split from proto Atlantic Congo.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And it's only separate due to the tones. But the reason why it lacks certain tones is because Proto-Mindi is much older.
Oh
So,
yeah,
that's why the tunnels is different within the language family.
oh yeah, that's why it's different. And like you find languages in certain languages in that's in Sudan, like the Kaddofian languages, that's similar to Mende. Then it was crazy. You got some languages. That's why I say Kaddofian, like even though they call it Kaddofian, it's not really a uniform language family. They kind of still working it out. But they come to find out they do know that it's related to Niger Congo family. What do they call it? Niger the mega family Niger Kaddofian. But some of the languages are more closer to the Mende. You got some languages over there that's more closer to Atlantic Congo, depending on what language branch it is. They say based on hundreds of tumuli present in Dar Tichitt, compared to dozen tumuli present in Dar Walata, it is likely that the Dar Tichitt was primarily center of religion for people of Tichitt culture. At Dar Wichit, that's why they had like found all them antelopes and antelope symbolisms and shit. Goats, like the Barbary goat and the gazelle and the antelope. When you look at Monday statues and traditions, they represent the deity of Pharaoh. And you see it. If you read Christopher Ehret book, Africa Civilizations, he showed a lot of that imagery in there. You even heard this talk about a lot of stuff that they ate. It say the people of Tichitt culture crafted arrows, arrowheads, and these arrows and arrowheads would have came from that Onanian culture. It would have been a combination. By the time you got to the Tichitt culture, you would have had hunting skills of the that was rooted from the Onanian population. Who picked up, who brought this pastoralist culture to this area. They were once hunter gatherers too, but they became pastoralists. You know what I'm saying? In Central Sahara, during when it was green, and then they brought their style of hunting and pastoralism to these West African hunter gatherers that was already there, and they fused these what I'm saying, they styles, their lithic styles and their to the crafts and the type of tools and weapons they made, or hunting tools they made. And they say grinding stones, quartz beads, scrapers, and workshops, as well as farmed and penned livestock, fished and hunted. A primary feature of Tichitt culture is sheep herding of livestock and cultivation of pearl millet. Because the sheep was so important because they already was in in a earlier stage, the Onanian culture, they already in the early Heliocene, they already was taming wild Barbary sheep for a long time. So by the time when the domestic sheep came in, you know what I'm saying, they're like, hell yeah, shit, we trade some of them, we get some of them. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't nothing too foreign. Just like with the Nilo-Saharan populations in the Sudan, they already had an earlier prototype type of style of cattle pastoralism, but they were dealing with wild cows though, like oryxes. And then later on, when the Bostorian start coming in, through Egypt, coming in from the Middle East, them cows started hibernate with, them fully domesticated cows started domesticate with them more wild, tame cows that the Nilo had that they probably traded with Afro-Asiatic speakers that was in the region. And it's various kind of local food sources. It's a panicum, which is some type of wheat, some type of grass. What's this? Cinericus belflorius. It's another grass, wheat. The grass is wheats. When we talk about grains, really talking about these are really different species of grass. Penny, cetium. These different grains and grasses that these people ate, herbs, different resources that they used. Page, shoot, they ate. What's this? The cobus. It's an antelope. It's another thing. So you see all these antelope, and like the antelope is actually related to the goat. Got the hippo dragudius, which is the Roran antelope. This was they hunted. Some of the animals that they hunted. The Gabian pouch rat. They ate rats. Common grenade. The leopard. You know what I'm saying? That's why they got the leopard skins and all that. They even West Africans, they ate horses. Sometimes they would trade them horses and eating them. Rhinos, different fish. And they say were eaten by people of the Tichitt culture. Let me see, rockwood depicting court in a long platform. Okay. Let me see. I'm going to some of my sources too. Let's see. This right here. This is a paper from Kevin McDonald. Your boy Kanji's verse. He always try to bring up Kevin McDonald like Kevin McDonald agrees with him. He don't even agree with you while using this source. You're not saying what you're saying. Cambridge verse claimed that the Capsians or the main group that populated West Africa, which is not true. Even if you read that same source that Cambridge verse used, I got the actual book too.
Hey, I think that guy got and what's crazy about that guy, like people get caught up in how articulate and how he carries himself. But you could be a very, you have organized pseudos out here. Like he's very, the way he speaks and his delivery and his approach, he'll trick an audience. He'll trick an audience and they think, he knows what he's talking about. Yeah, he's a politician, but he's telling beautiful lies. He giving y'all things to make y'all feel good. And he honestly believes some of that shit too, but it's lies.
Yeah, yeah,
The Capsians was Afro-Asiatic speakers. They were
yeah,
not the population that dominated all of West and Central Africa. We don't have nothing to do with that, yo. It's like
no,
he's constantly trying to make us tropical Western Central Africans who descend from Onanians, who became these Proto-Niger Congo speakers. He's trying to make us these people. We have our own ethnic groups that we shaped and formed. We have our own. We have our own everything that we became independently.
yeah,
We're not the Capsians. We're not the Amazic. We're not, but in some layers of our DNA, we do share some layers of DNA with Amazigh people and some affinities. Because the Onanians, who was in the early Green Sahara, shared in some layers of their DNA, indirectly with Ibero-Maurusians
yeah.
slightly.
They did, they did.
But
I was gonna show that too tonight, cause
yeah, well, I'll let you get into that on your own time.
oh yeah, cause McDonald, I'm gonna back you up on that. That was because McDonald even talked about he called them Metroids. He
Right,
he
right.
talk,
But
he talk about how they how they migrated. I said that too before you even came on the show. I said some of the Iberian Maroons, some of them travel south. When the green hair started to dry up, and even and you and then I said vice versa too. I said certain groups like the Onanian population or the Proto Niger Congo people, some of them went up north and merged with some of them Iberian Maroons that was up north. You know what I'm
right,
saying?
but you know what the cousin or the sister bridge between them are those fragmented Assyrian populations, which was the vestiges of both going into other directions and becoming adaptive to the zones because
Yeah,
even
yeah.
because
They were there first. The Tyrians will be considered the what they call basal West Africa.
absolutely. And
You know,
also, yeah,
go
yeah,
ahead, bro.
yeah. I was just gonna say to add on, the Ibero-Maurusians were not Afro-Asiatic speakers because our Ibero-Maurusians starts 30,000 years ago. They decline around 10,000 years ago. The DNA that's been sequenced from them goes back 15,000 years.
Yeah,
Afro, the
r- r-
Capsians, the Capsian groups brought Afro-Asiatic language phylum
yeah, they
into that
brought it
portion
in.
and
They
into
brought,
that portion of Africa. And then later, after the Capsians, Amazic or the Berber language derived much later. So,
yeah,
so
much
that
later. Yeah, because that was
so,
because that's a more the Capsians would have been like a more ancient version of Afro-Asiatic that became Berber later. Because
yeah,
Berber's more of
some
a downstream, like kind of like Bantu, kind
yeah,
of a downstream language of it.
the earlier Capsian language phylum or language branch was close to Hausa. It was close
Yeah,
to it.
yeah,
It,
Chadic.
it was close to the Chadic languages, and the Chadic language is like a sister branch cousin at base root of Cushitic that drifted from the
Yeah,
east
it,
as pastoralists.
it's because when you get to North Euretric, because them you dealing with the North Euretric branches. Chadic would be the most basal out of the north of the North Euretric branches. You know what I'm saying? That would be related to Egyptian, Semitic, Amazigh. You know what I'm saying? The Chadic being the most basal out of that group. And then what happened was too, the Chadic population was more the southern arm of the Capsian culture. And then the ones up north, the northern branch, the northern Capsians, they would have had a more they would have emerged more with the Iberian Maroons language, having it what Roger Blanche called Old North African language, probably with the hypothetical language that the Iberian Maroons spoke. And he said that's why Roger Blanche even say his theory is that's why Amazigh is a little more has some uniqueness to it. And they say even Egyptian might even have some old North African merged in it too.
It did. All those languages, when you get into it, it kind of blurs out because even like the Cushitic languages, the closest thing to the earliest Proto Cushitic before you even have the Somali, which means to milk, or before those little ethnic groups, even before their recent Kabyles, the Somali, what makes them stand out more within the Cushitic family because they have a base stratum where they're predominant and it survived in that cuff of the Horn of Africa at the
Yeah,
highest degree. The rest of the
yeah,
Cushitic people kind of diluted, like the Aqua, who are Southern Cushitic people. They are even though they still have a lot of strong affinities with the Somali, they kind of picked up other people's traces and genes, or the
Yeah,
Sahu people. So it's like, but when you look at them, these people, the Bija, the northern groups in North Sudan, even though they recently received some integration from modern day Arabs, they're closer in that sub-Saharan layer to the earliest
yeah,
Cushitic people.
they got more of the Amata component. Like
Yeah, they have. Yep, yep.
even though they Eritrea, they part of the Eritrea branch. They the most basal out of the Eritrea branch. The Cushitic branch is the most basal out of the Eritrea branch. Period. You
Correct.
know what I'm saying? Like even though you have more derived branches, it's the branch itself is basal. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Like
So
like 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 it still have like the old, like it still had the older Afroasiatic traditions still, coined, withheld in the culture.
correct. And that's the thing. Now we getting somewhere. So once we start penetrating, not to change the show, but we want to get an audience or the people that's listening a frame of what's going on with the Horn of Africa or the northern Eritrea areas to North Africa, all the way through the Sahara. It's a lot of population turnovers. There's a lot of migratory routes of peopling going in and out, and adaptations and adjustments. There are also parallel evolutionary shifts with these populations. There's a lot of stuff going on in those regions compared to the people that we come from in the Sahel or the pre-Sanake or pre-Mende groups, even before the pre-Bantus. We have our own independence history
Yeah,
and
yeah,
adaptation that has nothing to do with none of those people. You know what
yeah.
I'm saying?
And,
That,
and,
that
and you know what's crazy? I just found out too.
what's that?
When the Bantus migrated, when they migrated to southern Central Africa, whatever, in the mix with the Central African Batwa, right? They already had, even before they mixed with them people, they already had a group in their genes that was already related to the Batwa, because they mixed with them West African hunter gatherers first, which was already related to the Batwa people anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Shit, I just found out that the I think it was you telling me that I was reading something else as well, that even the Twa, because they didn't start off that size. They end up like any other organism that grows in some rainforest
Yeah,
areas like
they
that,
range. Yeah,
and it ranges in a insulin growth factor 1 mutation, which allows them to go into that. Even some reptiles go through that shift, and other animals.
yeah,
But sometimes reptiles can get bigger, but this is not the case for that portion. But I know the Negritos in Southeast Asia and certain portions of Southeast Asia and groups in the near those and further south of the Pacific Islands or whatever, um, they kind of go through those shifts as well. That's why Shamaka Keta talked about polytopicity, right?
yeah,
Because you have certain things that occur. If we understand convergence or parallel evolutionary shifts, we can start to see the formation of what's going on. Um,
yeah,
so I'm starting to, I think I read something, if I wasn't mistaken, that even a Twa um, have some relation somewhere down the line to Nilotes that
yeah. They
bridges
do.
off.
They do.
It,
They do.
yeah, that's
Because
dope.
they got that B marker. Like that hard, just like he saying that Hadza like shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so that means that the Hadza like population is ancestral North Africans, and whoever these people were that drifted off north, probably 130,000 years ago, from populations that was close to pre-Sandawe groups of north of East Africa, they drifted north and became the population's ancestral lineage at base, and they were also responsible for the non-African population that drifts out. And the closest population to ancient North Africans would be Hadza like people, if we use a modern proxy, and modern day Aborigine Australians, not fully Aborigine Australians, but Aboriginal Australians are the most isolated population um, when it comes to their genetic layers and description, that drifts off from the first out of Africa populations. If you start to follow their phylogenetic tree, especially on that C level and that independent mtDNA S, they came straight out of
Yeah,
mtDNA N. So
and they related and shit. Them motherfuckers, even though they still isolated,
yeah,
them motherfuckers on certain layers are more related to motherfucking vidoids from fucking India more than
it,
anything.
isn't that amazing, bro?
Yeah.
So yeah, so now we getting somewhere. So it's like I when it comes to us though, in the zones that you breaking up, and I'm gonna let you get back to it. It's it's so much history that's distinct. It's so much time that's distinct, and our adaptation and our adaptive traits are far distinct from an ancient Egyptian, from a further northern African. It doesn't even make sense, bro, for them to even play this game. This dude said that West Africa was isolated. It was isolated. I mean, not isolated. He said it was empty, and he said the only thing that was there was archaic humans.
Yeah, he
But then,
tripping.
but then he's acting like we didn't mix with those archaic humans or those ghost populations. It's
Yeah,
in us. It's
and that was and even that was complex in itself because look, right?
uh,
You had archaic humans. You had archaic humans over there, right? Like kind of like Jabel Jahud, and then you had a basal human branch or early human branch, which is the Tyrians that came in, who still slightly a little bit has some somewhat archaic features, but still more on the modern end. You know what I'm saying? They came in and mixed with mixed with the archaic humans, in certain regions. And
correct.
then, and then you had the late Stone Age people came in through Shumlaka, coming in through the southern route. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Which is ancestor of the Patois in the West Central African hunter gatherers. So
And then
even
it,
when they got there, the archaic humans that they came in contact with already was archaic and modern, early modern human hybrids. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely, absolutely. And then you had another group. You had a early East African population, a later group that came in probably around 30,000 years ago. That was close to like the Mercy people. But though that layer is very close to those Mesolithic Nilotic drifters. That was all through covering all through those zones because there's an article that shows
Yeah,
that
yeah. You talking about
central.
the aquatic people. Them people
Yeah,
related to they in the same. They more related to Central Sudanians. You know
yeah,
what I mean? They hold the old not Nilotic culture. They the Kefians. Shit, they the Kefians.
yeah,
And then
yeah, yep.
and then they cousins, the Sahelians, so it was another Nilotic group who had more a pastoral lifestyle. When the Sahara became more desertous, then people came in and overlapped them people and taught them people pastoralism, and they started, getting emerging into, the new Neolithic ways of life or whatever.
So my question is, how do you abandon all this to be a damn Egyptian? You got to be out your mind, bro. That doesn't
Yeah.
even make sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. James, someone nobody show sources. I'm doing. That's all I do. Show sources on this channel.
Yeah,
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 yeah, truly.
hey, show the sources, Gullah. I mean, we could go. You can go for the person that's saying it. The citations is right there. You can go to prehistoric West Africa on Wiki. The citation articles is there. The
Oh, that
DNA
yeah.
is there.
That's why I got a lot of these. That's why I got a lot of these sources from. This Kevin McDonald right here. Right. This more. I got some more recent stuff from him too. But it's from aspects of African archaeology. Dar Tichitt Walata and Middle Niger evidence for cultural contact in second millennium BCE. And it's a introduction of hydrogeology in previous in previous in previous research, a cultural connection between the Tichitt Walata complex of southeastern Mauritania and later civilizations of Middle Niger as long has been hypothesized. And it's from McIntosh. You see Hole right here. Say Hole 1995. Actually got some of his work, like his own work. He from Cameroon. And it's a Sanake oral tradition concerning the origins of the empire of Ghana, particularly the myth of Dinga the Tirlin. This from the Tirlin and Sailor, 1992. That's what it's sourced from. It's the affinities in ceramic traditions and the existence of vegetable Soninke-speaking populations in the vicinity of Tichitt have all been used to assort population movement from Mauritania to the Middle Niger sometime before the first millennium AD. It now appears that a fossil drainage of the Middle Niger supplies a concrete evidence for this interaction, which has long been sought. The Mima, a region of modern Republic of Mali, is one of the Niger River's many desiccated basins. Its vanished waterways were first investigated early in century of the geologist Fourier. I think it says something else in here about the Mende too. You got something to say, Gozy, bro?
I'm just looking at Pan African James in the post. He's so biased. I mean, I got love for the
Something
brother.
wrong with him, man.
Yeah, I got love for the brother, and I stand by what he stand by. But he's just so biased and so obsessed with slightly descending or being connected with them damn Egyptians. It's really, I mean, it's like we really don't accept Africa's diversity. Like I can appreciate a Egyptian without a Egyptian being a black African. I don't see them as black Africans or what they label as black Africans or tropical adapted or super Saharan populations that we are.
Hey,
Like I
bro.
don't go
Hey,
ahead.
bro. One of my Egyptian Facebook friends, bro. I know you know what's up, but I'm just speaking for the audience to hear. Uh, bro, dude, he looked like what people would maybe mistake him as a Middle Eastern. But bro, dude have 14% Nilotic ancestry in his DNA. 14%, that's a lot.
Here's the thing. I don't know if anybody's aware, but we have, well, and I'm just basing this for people that study us in the genetic world. You know, the data is getting ready to come out, and the PCAs is out. There's one segment from them from 4000 BC to the Old Kingdom and the New Kingdom, and the distance that you see in the principal component analysis. They ran the samples. Now the samples that's been sequenced is getting ready to come out, but you only have small amounts that's able to give you an idea of what's getting ready to be presented. And it's really going to bust a lot of people's heads because what it's showing is that the older population in the area was close to like people in Socotra or Mahidi type Arabs. But it doesn't mean that they are them. What it's showing is that the Eurasian uh, genetic signature started to have its base in Egypt area. It starts right there, and then it leaks into the Levant. And if you follow it based off the chronology of time, you see the Cormarusians to the Sibyllians to the Halthans who merged into the Levant 23,000 years ago and mixed with the Cambrians who come from the early Levantine Agrigetians who came from the Emirate culture who split from the early Assyrians, which is the non-African based stem. And
Yeah,
when you follow it, the reason why the Natufians in the Natif region of Israel was shifted towards ancestral North, I mean, Taferet, North African, Arabian Bedouin groups, and ancient West Asian hunter gatherers, which was close to the Anatolian population because it was a three-set merge in a population, which formed its own cluster. So when you look at the Egyptians in an earlier phase, they kind of similar to the Mahidi or people of Yemen, and um, and they had a Almatic base stratum because the Almatic base stratum is where they come from, even in the Tufians when it comes
yeah,
to the vestiges that they had. So
yeah,
when
cause
so
yeah, cause
mhm,
cause
well,
because even in the Tufians, the vestige of the Afroasiatic branch or the Amadic shit, that shit came through the Mushubian culture that mixed with the Cambrian.
it came from the Mashubians who were offshoots of the Cormarusians. So here's the trick:
Yeah,
even
yeah,
even the Hadza had an Omatic motor allele that people are not paying attention to because if you run a motor DNA in the G25, his first segment in distance is close to Hadza and other populations, which shows you at cuff root the non-African population and even the Cushitic people in some layer were close to populations that became out of Africa anyway,
yeah,
and they were close to the population that was within the first cuff of Greater Africa that we classify the Levant or Arabia in and out of Africa
Yeah.
migration. They call it the Arabian Post, right?
Yeah. And that's
So
and that's too because that could be too because you know the Afro-Asiatic people at its root, like the Amadic people, they already split from some type of proto-Nilotic type or like people anyway. And then
right,
and then too for a long time in different segments, you know what I'm saying, continuously they kept intermating, marrying and mixing with contemporary and a lot of people that they was living with, you know, for a long ass time, even though they were separate, you know, separate people, you know what I'm saying? They've been, you know, mixing with the people for a long time, different
yeah,
time periods.
yeah. So look, this was crazy. Egypt is literally 300 and some miles away from Israel. From Nigeria, it's a far. It's very far. It don't even make sense. It's far. Look at the mileage, right? But when you look at it, when you look at it, right, from the samples that's getting ready to be presented, and I can't wait. The Middle Kingdom, the first pre-dynastic and beginning is close to Mahdi and Socotra type people with Omatic base stratums. And then you do find an Neolithic population that was there because the Wadi Halfling groups that drifted up there, but they were very small, a minority. And it still lingers in most Egyptians, even the lightest Egyptians today. They range from 14 to 3% Nilo. When you look at their DNA, it's really small. But if they match with a sub-Saharan population, it'll always be either Nilo or something that's close to Omatic types. And that's it, but it's small. The overall DNA is highly Eurasian, right? But anyway,
Mhm.
but anyway, but and Eurasian doesn't mean European. Eurasian, it starts off the base stem is right there anyway. But anyway, um, but it also shows that the first kingdom was close to Mahdi. The middle kingdom was close to Coptics. The Coptics is very ancient, and then it also shows that within the middle kingdom, a people from the Fertile Crescent who was close to something called the Fayaku Mesopotamian start to drip there. That's before you even had a Sumerian population. That's why you start to find that art in a second phase of the Nakata period. You start to see that very similar art. Then
Yeah,
in a dynastic period, they merging with those groups. In the middle phase, the Coptic phase started to come because they mixed with another group of Eurasians called the Chalcolithic culture that come in through the Levant and caused a whole shift population turnover with even the pre-Natufian groups.
yeah. Them chocolate people already. That's why I was like when the chocolates came in, even though they mix with indigenous, you know, Middle Easterns and other people, they still have a component and element that's already related to that East African component anyway. They was like they mixed cousins coming back in and shit.
Bro, when these samples come out, Pan African James and all that, and I got love for my brother Pan African James and whoever, and brother Reggie, I got love for him too, and brother Comedy Verse, got love for him too. But I don't really know him like I know James and Reggie. I'm just letting y'all know the Three Musketeers, y'all out of there, bro. I'm keeping it 100 with you. So I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, y'all holding on. I know y'all. If you want to say that they were a type of black or whatever, I don't know. I don't even care about their skin tone because their skin tone always range. In that, it also talks about how the first phase of them were dark. They wore less clothes, so of course they would have been darker. But genetically, they still highly Eurasian, and Eurasian does not mean white. So I mean, it is what it is, yo.
yeah, yeah. And it's saying this right here. This from Augustine Hall right here. It's a background in Ghana Empire, archaeological investigation and transition of statehood in Dar Tichitt region. And this man, this from 1984. I got some more recent stuff too. And it say in this paper, attempt is made to find together various kinds of data related to the process of formation of Ghana Empire. The earliest West African state, an overview of research on this topic outline some of the major problems concerning the state formation in this region. This is followed by a discussion of the key political, economic features of their dynamic relations in the process for social differentiation. The use of this theoretical framework helps to make sense of the Dar Tichitt archaeological record. After the careful examination of the historic data, it seems that before the advent of Ghana Empire, trends towards statehood formation were already in motion in the Dar Tichitt region. Yeah, because the basis of a lot of the West African cultures is based off of commerce, trade, markets, and urbanism. You know what I'm saying? We were known for that. We created that. You know, the urbanism. You know, and a lot of the trade that people be, you know, thinking. It don't be a lot of thinking people been meeting up like that. It be long distance trade. Stuff go hand in hand. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. It's just like with some pseudos try to use the Yoruba and say, "Oh, the Yoruba had chicken and horses," but they didn't get those chickens directly from Egypt, nor did they get those horses directly from. They got those horses from elite Mandinka people, and they imported it through the Sahel. They got the
Yeah,
chick. They got the chicken through populations who from people who got it from. They got the chicken because this is how you know Yoruba or the Ifa ethnical as an ethnic group isn't that old because the chicken is one of the base mythical figures that they use in the Obatala story. But here's
yeah.
the thing.
We already had our own chickens too. Remember West Africans even before the chicken came in, we had the guinea fowl that we
They had to
domesticated.
get they had the guinea fowl. But when you look at the origin of the root of the chicken or I think one of the earliest fowls, you could go through this, brother Gullah. It was in India. Humans started to domesticate chicken and eat it first in Israel. Then you start to see it go through Egypt. But the West Africans never got it directly from Egypt. They got that shit from Egypt. They got it from populations who were trading or got it from, like, for example, from Egypt, it go through Sudan. From people in Sudan, it went through Chad. From people in Chad, it was imported through Cameroon. From Cameroon, it started. So it wasn't like, oh, the Yoruba man walked up north and said, "Hey, how you doing, fellow Egyptian? I'm getting ready to get a chicken." They try to use that too to their
Yeah,
story to say that no. And the chicken made it to West Africa late, very late, bro. I'm talking about not the guinea fowl. I'm talking about the chicken
yeah,
that's
the chicken.
used.
Yeah, yeah,
That shit made it to those portions at a later time. So it's like,
yeah,
it's really crazy. Just like the Yoruba, in the southwestern part of Nigeria, stretched all the way through Benin. So a lot of the exotics and stuff that they had, the elites was coming through populations through Benin who had ties with people that was in but you know this, brother. You know this from populations that had ties with Ghana, who had ties with people in the Sahel.
yeah.
Those Mindi elites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cause they don't want to they because they got the Sanake. You know the Sanake literally mean horse people.
Correct.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
hold on, Gullah, but let's keep it 100. Now the Sanake, who was a middleman in the Sahel,
They got them horses from Carthage. They got them horses from fucking Phoenicians and shit.
they got them horses from Carthage, and from Carthage,
And
The
Berbers.
Carthaginians gave it to them through the Berbers, and they got the leftover stemnits of what the Berbers gave them because the Berbers and the Mende people had a trade between salt and gold in the
Yeah,
Sahel.
yeah. Cause remember, bro. Remember he broke. Dude keep mentioning the Wangara. The Wangara is a subgroup of Soninke that became the elite Soninke because they was the niggas that was trading and getting rich. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause they had all these different connections and shit. They was closer to the Berbers and the Amazigh and the Carthaginians and shit. They had what they called the silent trade. Matter of fact, I'm gonna look. Let me show. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go in. We finna get it in tonight. Hold on. Wangara, Soninke. They got a lot of Soninke got a lot of wiki pages. Here we go. Soninke Wangara.
Hey, Gullah, I'm gonna be right back as you go in. Don't shut it down. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right.
Uh,
Right here it say the Wangara, or a subgroup of Soninke who later became assimilated at varying degrees, merchant merchant classes that specialized in both trans-Saharan and secret trade of gold dust. See the secret. That's what I'm talking about. The secret trade right here. You had the side called the silent trade. And they say their their uh their diaspora operated all throughout West Africa, Sahel, Sudan, fostering regional organized trade networks and architecture projects. But based in the many Sahelian and Niger Volta, Senegambia River city-states, particularly Daya, Timbuktu, Agadez, Gano, Gayo, Kim. This all these different places that they trade through. And also too, the Wangara later on, no, the Wangara would have started the tradition through the Sanake, but that tradition would have later on traveled through the Malay Empire later on. No, Malay was next. And the Malinke would have had a version of the Wangara called the Jula people, or the Jalanki. Say, no, E1B1B is not Eurasian, bro. This dude said E1B1B is Eurasian. What? No, it's not, bro. You don't not understand DNA. E3B, aka EM215. Origins. Look, hold on, look. E1B1B, which is the same as EM15. It's origins. Origins of EM215 were dated by Cernaya in 2017, about 22,400 years ago in East Africa, bro. That's where the Amadic component. That's why the Natufians got the Amadic component. Scratch that though. Let me get in. Let me get back into the journal real quick. Google Drive. I got another source too. Go back this way. I'm gonna put a link in the chat too, man. It'll get too late. I'm gonna put the link in the chat real quick. Real quick. Let some people in real quick. Make a build on something. Put the link in the chat. Quick. Just seen hold on. Get up. Back to these. Let me show you how this. So I got no, this one I didn't want to try to go to. It's coping with I got a lot of sources, y'all. Got no sources, you crazy. Another source I did pay about Augustine. Pretty slow, yeah. Augustine Hall. Just slow here stuff. There you go. Yeah, psionic and not getting it in. And then source says called like coping with something. It's this one. Expansion, world expansions and world and contradictions. This is a good read though. You can get it from my phone. That's why I like moving with my phone. I get to my sources a lot easier. I probably do it. I'm gonna do it to my phone real background, something of that nature. I think it might be this one. Might be this one. Yep, I found it. Coping with uncertainties, Neolithic life in Dar Tichitt, Mauritania. 4,000 uh 4,000 to 2,300 BP. This is like a more recent Augustine Hall work. Augustine FC Hall. This from 2000. This from 2009. What the Mindy in here? Oh, he say okay. He say it's the abstract. You say the sandstone excrements of Dar Tichitt in South Central Mauritania is inhibited by Neolithic astropastoral communities for approximately 1/2 a millennium during the late Heliocene. From 4,000 to 2,300 BP, the absence of prior evidence of human settlement points to influx of mobile herders moving away from the drying Sahara towards more humid lower latitudes. These herders took advantage of particulars in local geology and innovation and succeed in domesticating bulrush millet. And bulrush millet, y'all, it's the same thing as pearl millet. The emerging agropastoral substance complex had complexing and or contemporary requirements. Complementary requirements, depending on circumstances. In the long run, the social adjustment to the new substances been used to cope with climatic hazards in this relatively subscribed area. A tense and spell in the middle of the first regions, resettled by sparse oasis dwellers, populations in iron using communities starting from the first half of the first millennium AD, became part of the famous Ghana Empire, the earliest state in West African history. Let's see. Say something about the Mende. Let me see. You do say something about Mende. In the Tichitt culture wouldn't have been just the ancestors of the Saninka either. It would have been the ancestors of a lot of other different Mende cultures as well, like the Bozo, the Marca, and other different other Mende populations, because ranged out in different areas, like northern parts of West Africa. They're like that, in between the Niger Delta, the Niger inland delta. Because the Niger got two deltas. The Niger River got two deltas. You got the delta that's more like near Nigeria and them areas, like the Volta area. And then you got the inland delta. What do y'all even argue about in the chat? More so talking about Ghana in this source. Let me see, I got it. Figure this out real quick. Yes, I got a source from this book too. Got some sources from this. We talk about Dar Tichitt culture. See what Eric say. See what Eric say about Dar Tichitt. The Tichitt culture. Here we go. It's a commerce and urbanization in the Western Sudan belt. That's West Africa, y'all, or the Sahel. And it's a far to the west and far inland in another region of the bayous and wet soils. Similar forces were at work between 3,500 to 1,000 BCE in the Juaf Basin in and around the inland delta of Niger River. The decline of rainfall in the 3rd millennium BCE created the conditions for an even more significant growth of productive specialization in trade. As the climate dried out, the areas along the Middle Nile River became, to an extent not true before, an environment sharply distinct from the surrounding plains. Away from the river steep and the dry savanna, environments took hold, with few perennial streams and lakes that passed through the long dry season. They say, but along the river and its various channels, and especially therefore the inland delta of the Niger. That's all I'm talking about, the inland delta, and the permanent availability of extensive surface water in wet soils and high groundwater levels under the rest of the less wet soils mimic many of the conditions of an earlier wetter time. The sharply contrasting kinds of substance production available in the contrasting adjacent environments encouraged the earliest of all, the development of specialized fishing of people living in the inland delta, who turned all time and the catching of drying of fish for trade to other people. Their descendants in later times, the Bozo, who speak Mende language of the Niger-Congo family, describe themselves as the historical tradition and primordial inhabitants of the region. And it say the second proposed, the second response to the changing climate conditions of the third millennium was immigration of another people, the Marca, who apparently of Mende origin, of the surrounding area and into the inland delta. While the Bozo dominated the bayous, the Marca took up residence in the lands between the bayous and became specialized farmers of African rice. The third element was necessary to make these relationships work. The producers of the inland delta needed markets outside the delta for their produce. The Bozo traded fish, the market traded rice. They exchanged these products with each other, and they each traded the primary product to other peoples residing outside the delta, receiving in return such substance items as sorghum and livestock, along the other goods of steep and not readily available deltas such as leather. They say during the second millennium BCE, transfer, transformative new developments, including founding of the earliest known urban settlements of West Africa, overtook this original inter-ethnic trade in foodstuff. The new developments began not around the inland delta, but 500 kilometers northwest of the delta on the southern margin of the Sahara. In the Tichitt region of today's Mauritania, along a low excrement with reliable water sources in what was then dry steep grassland, a 2,000 kilometer scheme of towns and large villages grew up between 1800 and 1500 BCE. Different towns seem to have specialized in different products for trade and produce grindstones, another arrowheads, still another beads, and so forth. And the focused economic activity in these towns was manufacturing for trade, not the production of agricultural surplus. These towns not only traded with each other, but exchanged in longer distance trade for raw materials and livestock with communities far to the west and east of them. Along the scheme lay one town larger than the rest. It may have been capital town of political ruling over these settlements. After 1100 BCE, epic centers of urban and commercial life shifted southward into lands extending east and west from the inland delta. Tichitt remained a regional center of production until the abandonment of face of growing aridity in the middle of the first millennium BCE. And the Tichitt patterns of urbanization, which each settlement specialized in a particular kind of product, so I was talking about earlier, remain a lasting template of the town and city formation in the history of West Africa, Sudan belt, a topic about which we will learn more in chapter 5. That's Tichitt stone structures, West Africa. They end up getting it in chat. Talk about Dar Tichitt. Talk about Tichitt in this book too. African, ancient African history. Talk about how it's long distance trade, going more depth on long distance trade in West and Central Africa. So yeah, some of the stone structures real quick. It's Dar Tichitt right here, yo. Ancient shit. Shit that formatted Ghana or Wakadu. Wakadu, that's Wakadu. Stone structures. Kind of look similar to the same structure. Said Southeast Africa, in Zimbabwe, the Munamatapa, yeah, the Munamatapa structures. It kind of favor those to me. You right about that. Shoot. Magi or Cushitic people, yeah. The Bija Cushitic people, and they would have had some of them would have been mixed with some Nilotic people because because of the Nubians. Overall, they was Cushitic people. You know what I'm saying? Bija. Images. Go to images real quick. Look at Bija City. Bija people. Yeah, nothing like them people. They're their own people. Their own people. The brothers distinct. Their own group. Just not like an African American. With their own look. These are Cushitic people. Their own distinct look. They don't look like West African. I mean, might mistake them as a Fulani, but Fulani's are, you know what I'm saying, mixed with Amazigh uh, people anyway, to certain degrees. I say to certain degrees because you got some people that converted to full of, mixing some way. Look, distinct look, Somali right here. It's very distinct. Mm-hmm. You don't look like that. Yeah, don't be looking like that. Same, totally different person. It's why Africa is diverse. These people, they are their own very own cluster. These people more related to Berbers and Amazigh than they are to West Africa. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm probably gonna bounce out of here in a minute, y'all. Amend that people real quick. Amend it with this. So the mandate overall generally say about the, Dar Tichitt, coming from the Dar Tichitt culture. Archaeology, look, they say archaeological evidence shows that the Mende speaking people were early producers of the stone settlement civilizations. These were initially built on the rocky promontories of the Tichitt or Dar Nima and Taggart cliffs of southern Mauritania, beginning between 2000 BC and 1500 BC by ancient Mande speaking people, likely early Soninke peoples. Hundreds of the stone masonry settlements with clear street layouts have been found in this area. Some settlements in massive uh, defensive walls, while others were less fortified. Mm-hmm. But the Tichitt culture, yeah, so we get it in. Yeah, fam, I feel like I'm gonna shut it down right on for rocking with me tonight, y'all. Appreciate y'all. Next week I'm gonna do some on the West African hunter gatherers. I'm gonna do a show on them. And probably some on Katimbo, which is northern Ghana, not Ghana Empire, but not the northern modern state of Ghana. Katimbo is an archaeological complex, which you had, Niger Congo populations and some Nilo population. No. You had Niger proto Niger Congo populations coming in that region, same way how they did in the Tichitt region, mixed with these West African hunter gatherers that was already there in the region. All right, y'all. Peace out. Right on for rocking with the Al Jaheed's podcast, y'all. I'm gonna be out of here. Peace.